Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. Thank you Yang Bahagia Datuk Haji Ismail Binga, Yang Berusaha Dr. Noor Azrin Yahya, President MyParks, Chairman of the Organising Committee and Deputy Director General of Forest Research Institute Malaysia. Fellow panelists, Dr. Sri, Dr. Zakaria Hashim and Ms. Benedict Jarman. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to extend my gratitude to my MyParks Organising Committee for the invitation, and I'm truly honored to be here with all of you and hope everyone is your greatest health. So we are looking today into how parks and recreation in Malaysia is adapting to or responding in light with the global health crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm going to give you the insight of my presentation where I will talk about the before and after effect of the pandemic towards the people recreational norms and venue, namely the public parks and other communal green spaces, and some overview on how the program is carried out by National Landscape Department and the short-term and long-term action plan with regards to this pandemic. Then we will going to see some highlights on the Standard Operating Procedure or SOP, which are currently being imposed to the park and recreational areas user. We also will find out some design adjustment proposal for the park and green spaces component to suit the current way we are adapting with the social distancing and other related restrictions. Along the way, we will see that I am going to blend this presentation with some references from the implemented international project from practice across the world, so we can see how this best practice for us to follow in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, as all of us are aware, we are living with COVID-19 pandemic for almost 2 years now. And apparently the pandemic has changed the way we work and live these days. It also has an impact on the shape and the use of public spaces and will apparently leave a trace on how we approach urban landscape planning, design, management in. As the disease can be transmitted through close contact between persons, we see that lockdown procedure and extreme social distancing as the disease can be transmitted through close contact between persons, we see that lockdown procedure and extreme social distancing measures are employed and which has caused considerably suffering to some of us. People are confined to their home, working or taking care of kids, or just stay input to help to combat the spreading of COVID-19. There are more stress, anxiety, and uncertainty than usual. Several studies and reports have highlighted the negative effect of severe lockdown and staying indoor, indicating that a large number of population are experiencing severe studies and report has highlighted the negative effect of a severe lockdown and staying indoor, indicating that a large number of population are experiencing loneliness, sleep difficulties, which led to depression symptoms, anxiety disorder, and even suicidal. This shows that people need an outlet during this stressful time. Hence, one of the unexpected and really positive consequences of this COVID-19 restriction is witnessing public open space such as park and green spaces, mitigation or This shows that people need an outlet during this stressful time. Hence, one of the unexpected and really positive consequences of the COVID-19 restriction is witnessing a public open space such as park, green area has been used in terms of mitigating the adverse effect of pandemic lockdown on the population's mental health. It is indeed good to see the way people trying to avoid this depression by rediscovering the simple pleasure of going to a walk in the street or going to the park or getting on their bicycle to explore their neighborhood, local forest, track or trees. It proved that existing neighborhood parks and green open spaces has successfully act on the open remedial venue in delivering positive health, social and environment outcome. People look for exposure of fresh air, sunshine, and gentle exercise as an alternative to distress and take care of their general health. National Landscape Department, as the agency spearheading landscape development in Malaysia, it is our utmost responsibility to address this concern, and we shall look into both temporary and more permanent adjustment that would provide new and conducive parks and green recreational spaces during the pandemic and to be adopted by related bodies and agencies, especially by the local authority. However, the sheer movement of people exercising in the open space after this pandemic has exposed the limitation of current design and space allocated for these public parks and green recreational area. With too many people and cyclists crowded into a narrow walkway or poorly laid out field has not helped us in any way while we are struggling to curb this disease. That is why our future parks and public spaces need to be designed or redesigned to enable for a better social distancing with wider footpaths, segregate cycleway or more linear parks to meet the increased demand for these precious public spaces. There are many concerns that we have looked into if we are there are many concerns that we have to look into if we are to design or redesign these spaces. First, we have to look at who will be using the park, and finally, the extent or measure of control that we need to plan or impose. We have to ensure the space for this user can be accessed, safe, and sufficient. But on top of that, the design must be in accordance to the current legislation, standards and policy, as well as they incorporate with the creative design functionalities and aesthetic values. I'm pleased to note that National Landscape Department has progressed through various development programs and initiatives in carrying out the responsibility to be at the forefront in Malaysia's physical landscape development as well as landscape industry by providing seamless and well-connected green infrastructure such as public parks, green promenades, open spaces, as well as other recreational facilities throughout the nation, especially in the urban area. For those who are familiar with Jabatan Landscape Negara, will know that Malaysian landscape planning was structured and transpired through a proper National Landscape Policy Guideline and Landscape Master Plan, which emphasizes on the ecology understanding and multidisciplinary approach to analyze, planning, and design to create the place character and sustainability. This document subsequently helps municipality or local authority to further understand the scope and context in order to plan, manage, and foresee the issue related to landscape within their area. The department also has set out several specific strategies through implementation of programs and activities in carrying out the task of providing conducive and high quality urban green infrastructure. Numerous urban landscape development projects has been carried out through integrating public recreational facilities towards seamless interconnected green spaces within urban area. The aim is to intensify urban solution using landscape architecture through the scale of the city. New approach for every proposed landscape development should not only be accessible and attractive green network, but must also be able to promote habitat conservation and ecosystem revitalization, apart from incorporating technologies and health and education-oriented element in the design principle. The creation and reinvention of green civic space should integrate aesthetic, health, and recreational value for the society, where it is fundamental to subsequently create a sense of space and a feeling of belonging, simultaneously making landscape as one of the primary infrastructure. The department has always emphasized on the importance of parks, squares, and green recreational spaces as they provide a fundamentally different sensory experience from grey space. The role of connecting people with nature and providing spaces for relaxation and play is vital for healthy urban living. A coalition of research highlight a wide range of benefits that park and green spaces can offer, include how the presence of trees and green spaces can make places pleasant, cooler, and reduce the surface water runoff. Apart from having access to nature can promote lower blood pressure, reduce stress, and improve mental well-being. If we look at the current status and the scenario of COVID-19 infection in Malaysia, we can see that they are at their peak with the highest daily average at 21,561 new cases a day. There have been approximately more than 1.5 million infections, with about 14,000 deaths reported since the pandemic began. Even though the number of cases has relatively shown decline these few days due to the increased daily dose of vaccination, we can simply say that restrictions or SOP that have been in place at the communal spaces, such as in the park and recreational area, can easily be lifted up. Since we are still under the movement control order by the government, it is important to note that all caretakers of this area are obliged to comply to all announcements and instructions by Ministry of Health and the National Security Council, which undeniably will affect the operational system, opening time, and activities of public parks and recreational area around Malaysia. National Landscape Department has been alerting the public of this SOP, which are subject to changes following the updates of circumstances and announcement by the government through an official announcement. So next, we are going to look into the component commonly found in the park or communal spaces, which we are going to elaborate a little bit more on the SOP and to be implemented, as well as a design adjustment for our future reference. Alright, first and foremost, it is important for us to look into the entrance area. Similar to other places, users are subject to register themselves in their MySejahtera account appropriately and make sure that they are free from any sicknesses before entering the park. Some parks may have a proper gateway, card post or entryway, but it is important that the barcode station are provided at this juncture. For the communal spaces without a gateway, it is good if the respective owner of the park or the local authority can provide a place to place the barcode station at the strategic point, which is visible for everybody. Secondly, once a park or a recreational area are open for use, it is most unlikely that we can limit the number of users to come in. This is why a temporary or a permanent signage should be put up to remind the user of their responsibility to make sure that they keep a safe distance from one another and bring along their sanitizing kits while sporting or exercising. As for the pedestrian or bicycle pathway, the SOP or the standard operating procedure while doing sports and recreational activities for the user are basically is to keep their distance between individuals at the minimum of 2 to 3 meters from each other. This thing is that not all pathway provide the park with a wide or spacious enough to cater the volume of user during the peak time. Social distancing when exercising is especially important, while guidelines prepared by the department has outlined that the distance between 3 to 5 meter is required for a dynamic activity such as jogging and hiking. I'm happy to note that some of the parks around Malaysia, including our own park in Taman Persekutuan Bukit Kiara, has stopped two-way direction on the same jogging path. This is good to prevent steps, as joggers can only move in one direction, so they do not face each other on the same trail. This is because dynamic activities like running will cause people to sweat and breathe heavily, and this will increase the need to keep a safe distance from one another to prevent the spreading of COVID-19. As for the static activities such as physical exercise, a distance of 1 meter to 3 meter is sufficient. As for the future design proposal, a landscape architect or the designer can creatively plan for a park circulation pathway or to align accordingly, whether in a circular or in a linear mode. Certainly, the minimum width of the pathway currently, we used to have 1.5 meter according to the standards that we are using now. I think we have to look into the possibility of having it increase with a minimum of 3 meters or more, if possible, to include the bicycle lane. There are instances of a complete project by some international practice to show how they designed the pathway and how they took the requirement of taking to prevent the spreading of disease. We can see that they are nicely and separately laid out, so the user are not going to face one another while they are using the park, and the other user also, they are coming from opposite directions, and hence will reduce the spreading of water droplets between the user in the park. This is the park proposed to be developed in Vienna, which come with a design specific of post-COVID-19 concern, and even the name is named as a distant park. The pathway are at the distance of 2.4 meters from each other, and the height of the trees and hedges varies. Because of the site is quite hilly, sometimes people will be completely surrounded by nature. Other times they will rise above the hedges. Nevertheless, at all times, there will be a safe physical distancing between visitors. Moving to a communal or congregation space, often we see spaces like plazas and open lawn within a park, especially when there are water bodies or water attractions in the park. Again, it is very likely that for us to keep the visitors away from using these spaces. So apart from putting up the SOP reminder or signage in place, there should be measures design-wise to help with the effort to segregate the user from flocking or gathering in one place. One of the options is to separate intendedly gathering ground into a smaller point, indicating by color code signages or having different levels of gathering spot, so they can subtly know where to sit and where to settle down. As for the playground, I believe This is the most challenging space if we are to set the SOP for the little user and also for the guardians. For the meantime, SOP for playground is quite stringent and most of the playground are still closed at the moment. However, it is indeed an important matter for us to rethink about the current playground design. We certainly do not want to limit the children from playing and having their physical activities in the open spaces and playground. But now we have to make sure that they are still allowed to do so, but with extra conscious. Perhaps design-wise, we have to come up with new approaches or idea on how new playground design should enable the children to play and at the same time maintain a safe distance without compromising their ability to develop their intellectual and outdoor and motor skill while they are out in the outdoor area. If the playground are going to be in operation again, it is crucial that we keep the children from having the body contact from each other. Alright, now we move to the transit area or the benches, where I think in most of the park this is the common things that you can find in most of the common area in our cities and town. What I mean is the transit point where basically parks components such as gazebo, pavilion and benches often found in the park, and they are normally used for a place for resting. The social distance which have been set out at the moment is 1 meter from one individual to another, and it still apply at all venue. And it is good that if there are reminders or signages to be abide to this procedure in those places. However, I'm more concerned about the component future design or some temporary measures if possible, since it is placed for resting and sitting, which normally take up about 15 minutes or more. It is important that it can potentially be an area for virus spreading or transmission if each individual stay longer at that particular area. So that is why seating or benches designed for this component must be ensured that are properly spaced out from one individual to another, preferably by plants or other material to be taken into consideration. Ladies and gentlemen, as everyone is aware of, just a few days back, we have co-organized IFLA 2020 World Congress, and it was indeed a very successful event. During the Congress, new issues, challenges, future design approach and solutions has been raised and discussed. Landscape architects from various regions have shown incredible and grand design solutions with considerations of future needs with regards to the pandemic. This new approach and design solution will surely be inspired and an inspiration for all. I would love to share some of the videos of these future ideas so to be transpired to Malaysian landscape as we move forward in the future. as a conclusion, before I end this presentation, there are a few more things that I think it is important to highlight. One is about how we are going to execute this new method of planning, design, and management of parks and recreational area, post-COVID area. Since landscape planning, development and design of parks in Malaysia not only lies under the jurisdiction of federal government, but also under the authority of states and local government, it is vital that this authority could conduct and provide new policies or bylaws with regards to a proper approach and effort to bring back nature into the cities through parks development. Equally important are the continuous effort in providing appropriate access, facilities, and transportation for those who live in the congested urban area, including those from a low-cost housing area where they don't have enough green spaces or related infrastructure. We also hope other agencies related to forests and natural resources, such as FRIM and Forestry Department, can play their role in conserving this area and perhaps maintain and upkeeping these recreational spaces in their natural state. Secondly, it is on the challenges of our future landscape due to lack of spaces in urban area, especially during this pandemic period. The need for green spaces and a better connectivity is something that we have to look together. We are looking forward to include other agencies such as Ministry of Health and NGOs to collaborate with us for future parks development in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, we can say that COVID-19 pandemic is a wake-up call for us. Our world will never be the same again, and neither will be our cities and surroundings. The pandemic, the tragic loss, the movement restriction imposed, and the new norms of SOP and living with this disease has literally given us time to reflect and think about the long-term solutions. I hope that more people will discover in this period. I'm hoping that what people discover in this period and how priceless it is to have a safe, beautiful, and well-maintained public spaces to go outdoor and to recharge. It is really powerful. I think that's all from me today, and I hope that we can meet again in further discussion to discuss in depth and how can we give the input for a better living environment. I wish you a pleasant day ahead and stay safe. Thank you.